everyone, and welcome to our deep dive. Today we're going all the way back to 1895.
Ooh, back in time.
We are with Horatio W. Dresser and his book, The Power of Silence.
Interesting.
It really is. It's all about how our thoughts, get this, actually shape our reality.
I
And
know, right?
not just our happiness, but our health, too.
Okay, I'm already curious.
I think you'll find this fascinating. So Dresser, he believed it all comes down to tapping into this, what he calls universal power.
Huh. So how does he explain what this universal power is?
Well, he uses terms like God or spirit, but
Okay.
yeah, but here's the thing. He's not talking about some distant, figure up in the clouds. He's saying this power is inside everything.
Like, it connects us all.
Exactly. That's a key part of his philosophy.
I can see why you picked this book. This is great. But, I have to admit, the idea of God being everywhere, it just makes me wonder about free will.
Right.
Like, if we're all connected like that, how much do we actually choose?
That's a really good point, and it's a question that I think a lot of people struggle with.
Absolutely.
I mean, it makes you wonder where our own individuality fits in, right?
Exactly.
But Dresser, he doesn't dismiss free will. He suggests this connection isn't something we, strive for, or it's already there. It's this constant source of support, kind of like,
Like a safety net.
kind of, but he uses the analogy of a mother's love for her child. No
Right.
matter what, a mother's love is always there, right?
Right.
So Dresser's saying we're always held and cared for by something much larger than ourselves.
Okay, so it's less about earning this connection and more about recognizing that we're already a part of it.
Exactly.
I like that.
It is comforting, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
But if this power is everywhere, how does that actually affect the world we experience?
Good question. That's where his concept of the world of manifestation comes in.
Okay, what's that all about?
This is where it gets really interesting. He's basically saying the physical world, everything we see and touch, is like a projection of this divine consciousness.
Whoa, hold on. So, our thoughts are the projector and the world is the screen.
You got it. He's saying even solid matter, like rocks, trees, even us.
Yeah.
We're not just inert stuff. We're full of life and energy.
Okay, because we come from this one source.
Exactly. He uses the analogy of water. You've got ice, you've got liquid water, and you've got steam.
Right, all different forms, but it's all still water.
Right. And Dresser's saying that's kind of how this universal power works, too.
That's pretty mind-blowing when you think
It
about it.
really is. But here's another question I had. If even matter is part of this energy, this divine consciousness, then where do our minds fit into all of this? What are they?
Well, Dresser, he believed that our minds are incredibly powerful forces. He didn't think that we're just passive receivers of the world, just taking it all in. He really challenged that. He had this idea of our life in mind,
Yeah.
which said that our thoughts aren't products of the world, but things that actually shape the world.
Okay, so you're saying our thoughts actually create our experiences.
That's what he believed, yes.
That's a lot of responsibility.
It is. And that's why Dresser emphasized that we have to be really mindful of our thoughts. Think about this. You have two people looking at the same beautiful sunset, right?
Mm-hmm.
One person, they might be filled with awe and wonder. They might be so happy and grateful.
Yeah.
The other person, they might feel sad or melancholy.
Yeah.
Same sunset. Dresser says that proves how our perception, our thoughts about the scene, that's what creates our experience of it, not just what's happening outside.
So it's not the event itself, it's how we're thinking about it on the inside.
Exactly. And he even went a step further with something he called spiritual matter.
Wait, what? Spiritual matter? What's that?
I know it might sound kind of out there, but
It kind of does.
he proposed that there's this subtle substance, this spiritual matter that connects our minds.
Is he talking about telepathy?
You got it. He was. You know how sometimes you think about someone right before they call, or you just have this feeling that someone's about to reach out?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Dresser wouldn't say that's just coincidence. He believed it's evidence of this interconnected web of thoughts. There's this constant flow of mental energy between people going on all the time.
That's a little spooky, but also kind of cool.
It is, isn't it?
It is. But, okay, so if our thoughts are that powerful, if we're all connected like that, then why is there so much negativity in the world? Why do bad things happen?
That's a big question, and Dresser tackles it head-on in his book.
Does he have an answer?
Well, he believed that suffering actually stems from resisting this universal flow, this connection we all have.
What do you mean by resisting?
Like getting caught up in fear, negativity, and trying to force things that aren't meant to be. It's like putting up a wall between ourselves and this positive energy that's always trying to flow.
So we're creating our own suffering.
That's one way to look at it, yeah. Dresser had a really interesting way of describing this. He compared it to, like, a seed germinating.
A seed.
Yeah, think about it. Before a sprout can break through the ground, it has to go through this period of darkness and struggle.
Right, it has to push through all that dirt.
Exactly. And Dresser's suggesting that suffering is kind of like that. It often comes before a breakthrough. Like, it can be this catalyst for deeper thinking. It can help us see where we're going wrong and prompt us to realign ourselves with that universal power in order to heal and grow.
So it's like hitting rock bottom can sometimes be the thing that helps us make a change for the better.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
It's kind of a tough love approach, right?
Yeah, but it makes you think.
It does. But I'm curious, so how do we stop resisting? Like, how do we actually align ourselves with this universal power? How do we tap into that healing and growth?
Well, that's where Dresser's idea of self-help through silent receptivity comes in. He believed that cultivating a state of inner silence was key. Like, not just quiet around us, but quiet in our minds.
The inner silence.
Yeah.
That makes sense, but it sounds kind of impossible in today's world.
Right.
There's so much noise everywhere you go all the time.
Dresser knew it was a challenge. He wasn't expecting people to go live in a cave or something.
Yeah.
He suggested starting small, like even just a few minutes each day of dedicated stillness. Whether that's, a walk in nature, finding a quiet corner in your house, or just closing your eyes and focusing on your breath. It's about building a habit, making it a part of your routine.
Like building a muscle.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
more you do it, the easier it gets.
So it's not about being perfect at it right away. It's about consistently making the effort.
Exactly. And Dresser, he believed that when we do that, when we create that space for inner quiet, we open ourselves up to this wellspring of like wisdom and healing power.
A wellspring. I like that image. So it's like all that wisdom and healing is already there. We just have to tune into it.
Right. We just have to quiet our minds enough to hear it.
So we left off talking about spiritual matter and thought transference.
Yeah. Still kind of wrapping my head around that one.
I get it. It's a lot to take in.
Mm.
But I want to switch gears a little bit and talk more about Dresser's ideas about self-help.
Yeah, I thought those were really interesting too.
I think what's so cool about Dresser is that his approach to self-help is like so different from what we hear a lot about today.
Right. Like it's not about, life hacks or being super productive.
Exactly. It's not about hustling or getting ahead. It's much more about understanding the natural world and like aligning ourselves with it. He called them universal laws.
Huh. Universal laws. So it's more about working with the natural order of things.
Yes. And he really believed that when we ignore these universal laws, when we try to fight against them, especially when it comes to our minds and emotions, that's when we cause a lot of our own suffering.
Okay, so to clarify, you're saying like fear, negativity, and trying to force things that aren't meant to be, all of that actually blocks us from this healing power.
You got it. It's like we're putting up a wall, And that's why Dresser emphasized silent receptivity so much. It's about quieting the mind, letting go of how we think things should be, and opening ourselves up to the wisdom and healing energy of this universal force.
That makes sense. But I've tried meditation before, and finding that inner silence, it's way harder than it sounds. My mind just won't shut off. Did Dresser have any advice for people like me who, aren't exactly Zen masters?
He did, and he totally understood that it takes time and practice. He said to start small, set aside a few minutes every day for silence and stillness. It could be anything, like a walk in the park, finding a quiet spot in your house, or just closing your eyes and paying attention to your breath. He even compared it to exercise.
Oh, like you have to train your mind.
Yeah, you have to build up those mental muscles, so to speak.
That's a good way to think about it. But I'm still curious, like, how does that silent receptivity actually help us? Let's say I'm dealing with a really stressful situation at work.
Okay.
How does quieting my mind make things better?
Well, Dresser thought that by being silent and receptive, we're actually making space for that universal power to work through us. Imagine, like, clearing a channel for positive energy to flow in and address whatever needs attention. Stress, anxiety, even physical stuff.
So instead of trying to force a solution, it's more about letting go and trusting that something bigger is going to take care of it.
Exactly. Dresser was big on analogies from nature. He compared it to like how our bodies heal a cut. We don't have to consciously tell ourselves what to do. Our body just knows how to heal, right?
Right.
Well, he thought that quieting the mind lets us tap into that same kind of wisdom, that deeper intelligence that knows what we need, even when we don't.
That's a cool concept. But does he think all healing is mental? Like, if I break my leg, I don't have to go to the doctor. I can just, like, meditate and expect it to heal on its own.
He didn't mean it quite like that. While he believed strongly in the power of the mind, he also recognized the importance of, practical action. If you break your leg, you definitely need a doctor.
Great, of course.
But Dresser might suggest that having a positive mindset and believing that your body can heal can actually help the physical healing process.
Oh, so it's not about denying reality. It's about using the power of our thoughts to work with reality.
Exactly. It's about remembering that we're not separate individuals fighting against the world, but part of this larger interconnected web. And when we align ourselves with that, Dresser believed, we unlock a ton of wisdom, strength, and healing power that was always there.
I love the way he puts that. But this is a journey, right? It's not like we just flip a switch and suddenly we're perfectly aligned with everything.
Definitely not. Dresser often compared it to, like, a traveler exploring a new land.
Oh, interesting.
There are going to be ups and downs, challenging terrain, and sometimes you get lost.
Right, you might take a few wrong turns.
But every step, even the tough ones, they all teach you something and help you grow.
It's a good reminder that true change takes time and effort. You can't just expect to become a Zen master overnight.
Nope. It's about constantly learning, getting to know yourself better, quieting the mind, and trusting that things are unfolding as they should. It's a lifelong practice.
And I guess as we learn to do that, as we become more aware of ourselves, we also start to see how connected we are to everyone and everything around us.
Right. It's like our thoughts and actions, they don't just affect us, they ripple outwards and impact the world around us.
It's like our individual growth actually contributes to something bigger.
Exactly. And that's what Dresser believed was so important, moving beyond just like individual self-improvement to something more collective. He thought it was about contributing to the betterment of humanity as a whole.
So it's not just about me finding my own peace. It's about realizing that my personal growth can actually help create a better world for everyone.
You got it. Now imagine, what if everyone embraced this idea of silent receptivity, of aligning with the good, of cultivating inner peace? Dresser thought that could be a powerful force for positive change in the world.
That's a beautiful thought. But with all the negativity and like straight up bad stuff happening in the world, how can we be sure that we're moving towards a better future? Like, is it even possible?
That's something Dresser struggled with too. He didn't pretend to have all the answers, but he seemed to believe that the world's transformation starts with individual transformation. Like, the more people awaken to their true nature, their connection to that universal power, the stronger those positive vibes get.
And the bigger the impact.
Right. And eventually those ripples, they become a wave that can really change things.
So it's like reaching a tipping point where there's enough positive energy to create lasting change.
Exactly. And Dresser saw this shift not as some fantasy, but as a natural part of evolution. Like the universe is always moving toward greater harmony and wholeness.
That's a really hopeful way to look at things. So even with all the bad stuff, there's still reason to believe that we're heading towards something better.
That seems to be Dresser's main message. Like, underneath all the chaos and difficulty, there's a deeper reality guiding us toward a brighter future.
It's definitely inspiring, but if our thoughts really are that powerful, it kind of feels like a lot of pressure, you know? What if I'm not always thinking positive, uplifting thoughts?
Dresser knew we're all human. He didn't want us to get bogged down in guilt or judge ourselves for having negative thoughts. He'd probably say those thoughts are just opportunities to learn and grow.
So it's not about being perfect. It's about being aware of those negative thoughts and choosing to shift them in a more positive direction.
You got it.
Yeah.
He believed we have the power to choose how we respond to whatever life throws at us. We can get swept away by the negativity, or we can be like captains of our own ships, steering our thoughts and actions towards a better outcome.
I like that analogy, the captain of your own ship. So it means we're not just victims of circumstance.
No.
We have the power to create a better world for ourselves and for the future.
Exactly. And Dresser believed that that power doesn't come from like big, flashy things.
Yeah.
It comes from the quiet, everyday practice of self-awareness, inner silence, and receptivity to that universal power.
Wow, we've covered so much. It's almost time to wrap things up, but maybe we should give our listeners a moment to think about all of this.
Definitely. Think back to what Dresser said about suffering. Do you ever feel like you're resisting the natural flow of life? What does it really mean to surrender to something bigger than ourselves? And maybe the most important question, what are some small things you can do to invite more silence and receptivity into your life?
That's something for everyone to ponder. We'll be right back to finish up our deep dive into the power of silence. But for now, let those questions settle in. See what comes up. Welcome back to our deep dive into Horatio W. Dresser's The Power of Silence. We've been talking about all these powerful ideas, how our thoughts shape our reality, how suffering can come from resisting this, universal force.
Yeah, it really makes you think.
It does. And then Dresser's whole idea about finding that power within by cultivating inner silence. Wow.
It's amazing how Dresser connects personal well-being to this bigger picture. You know, like he suggests that our thoughts and actions, they actually create ripples.
Ripples, yeah.
Ripples that impact not only ourselves, but the world around us.
So it's not just about me finding my own inner peace.
No, it's also about realizing that we're all connected and our choices, they matter.
Like on a larger scale.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dresser's challenging us to see that when we become more self-aware and align ourselves with this universal power, it's not just about personal gain anymore.
Okay.
We actually become active participants in the evolution of consciousness itself.
Oh, no, that's a big idea.
It is.
So, okay, if enough people embrace this idea of silent receptivity, of choosing good, could we actually create a more positive future?
That's a question that Dresser wrestled with too,
Yeah.
He didn't have easy answers, but he did suggest that transforming the world, well, it all starts with transforming ourselves. As more people awaken to their true nature, that connection to the universal power, the impact of their thoughts and actions becomes even stronger.
And that creates a collective force for good.
Precisely. Dresser didn't see this shift as some kind of fantasy either.
No.
He believed it was a natural part of how things work.
Yeah.
The universe is constantly moving towards greater harmony and wholeness.
Okay, so even with all the bad stuff going on, there's still hope that we're moving towards something better.
That seems to be Dresser's core message. Beneath all the surface stuff, all the struggles, there's this deeper reality guiding us towards a brighter future.
That is inspiring. But I have to admit, if our thoughts are that powerful, it feels like a lot of pressure.
I get it.
What if I'm not always thinking positive, happy thoughts?
Well, remember, Dresser knew we're all human, right? He wouldn't want us to beat ourselves up for having those negative thoughts. He'd probably say there are opportunities to learn and grow.
So it's more about being aware
Exactly.
and making a conscious effort to align with the good.
You got it. Dresser believed we have the power to choose how we respond to life's challenges. We can get swept away by all the negativity, or we can become conscious navigators, steering our thoughts and actions in a better direction.
That's a great way to put it. It means we're not just, helpless victims.
Nope.
We have the power to create a better world for ourselves and everyone else.
And dressers believe that power comes from a quiet, everyday practice, not big flashy actions. It's about self-awareness, inner silence, and being open to that universal power.
It's amazing how these ideas, from over a century ago still feel so relevant.
I know, right?
In our world, which is so busy and noisy and chaotic, Dresser's message about finding peace and power within, it's more important than ever.
I think the biggest takeaway from all of this is that the power to change our lives and the world, it's not out there somewhere waiting for us to find it. It's within each of us, waiting to be discovered in the stillness of our own hearts.
So as you go about your day, listener, remember what we talked about today. What happens when you embrace that power of silent receptivity? What new possibilities open up?
If, as Dresser suggests, our thoughts shape our reality, what kind of world are you creating?
That's a great question to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the power of silence. We hope it's inspired you to explore your own inner world and discover the amazing power that's within you.